What is going on, everyone? This is Adam and Craig with Grandstand Golf, and in this video, we are doing our DFS first look show for the U.S. Open. We're heading out to New York at the Winged Foot Country Club or Golf Club. Craig, what are you looking at for Winged Foot for the U.S. Open? What's catching your eye? Give me your thoughts.
Well, first off, it's exciting that we are not having to talk about the Safeway Open and we're talking
For
about the
sure.
big boys again. But in a lot of ways, it's easier to talk about the Safeway Open or some of these smaller tournaments because they played at the same course every year. You can get a good feel
Yeah.
of what to look for in players that are going to do well at those courses. So a week like this, we have to do a little bit more work to try to predict who's going to do well. And so looking at Winged Foot specifically, we have the 2006 U.S. Open is the one tournament that we really have from the stroke gained era.
Right. So
And
they've posted a number of U.S. Opens, but this is the only one within that kind of strokes gained era.
yeah, I want to say it's about between PJ Championships and U.S. Opens, it's been about six or
Yeah.
so
Right.
championships that they've played there. But in 2006, so if we take the strokes gained stats of players going into the tournament, so in the year or
Mhm.
year and a half leading up to that, and see how predictive the different stats were of success at the tournament. Really around the green and putting were the two highest predictive stats,
Right.
which is unusual because as we go through this, we know that
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's unusual because when we think of a US Open, we almost automatically go to bombers. We think of Brooks, we think of Gary Woodland, we think of DJ, who have all recently won in the last 5 years. And I think this is going to actually play out a little bit differently and the stats are showing that.
yeah, and you can see that a little bit if we look at the 2010 to 2019 average course fits at U.S. Opens. You can see that
Yeah.
you get the higher the 7% and 6% on approach and off
Hmm.
the tee. So basically, I took a little bit of both in building our
Yeah.
model. I took what we usually see out of U.S. Opens, and then I also gave much more weight to the 2006 Winged Foot, which
Sure.
really just it means that you can't discount the short game like we
Yeah.
oftentimes do in trying to predict who's going to do well. And then the other one as I was looking through numbers, one thing that really caught my eye was that U.S. Open experience is a pretty good predictor of U.S. Open results, which
Yeah, you can't go into US Open never playing one before and win. I mean, I don't know if that's ever, I don't know the last time that's happened.
I'm sure if you go
Certainly
back
you
far
need some
enough, you could
experience.
find someone that
Yeah.
has. But in the last 10 years, people had a history. Now, there have been times where people have missed a cut the year before and gone on to win, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's more usual that they have some success in the years leading
Yeah.
up to the U.S. Open. And so, just real quick, when I looked at that, a few of the guys that get value bumps at their price points based on
Mhm.
what we've seen from them at U.S. Opens in the past 3 years, Xander, Webb, Hideki, Patrick Reed, and Matt Fitzpatrick. They've all done better at U.S. Opens than they're priced for this year. So if you like them for
And
other
I
reasons, it's just one more reason to like them.
and I like them. I think they're all going to be a little bit popular. It's still really early in the week, but I think that those golfers will be popular. But I think you do need to check that the people that you're rostering at least have some U.S. Open experience. But if they're successful there, that's even better.
Yeah, I think Xander especially is gonna get a lot of ownership, which is too bad because I
Yeah.
think he's gonna be one of the guys I want to get in my lineups the most.
Yeah. Same here. Same
So
here.
the other thing that we've been looking at, that you've been looking at especially, is recent form.
For sure. Yeah, so you can't come in cold. You need to have some US Open experience and you can't come in cold. So we looked at the last 10 US Open winners and they each had at least a top 10 in their last 5 events coming in. Many had, I mean, better results than that, a top five, multiple top fives, or a win. It's a little bit different this year, but just because our schedule is different. We don't have, I mean, you see a couple there that are familiar, Memorial players that have popped up a couple times. We don't have those tournaments. So when I'm looking at form for this US Open, I'm looking at the BMW, the Northern Trust because they're heavier fields and they have, I mean, at least a half field of guys competing. The Wyndham, which will be a little bit less for me, but if they have a top 10, if that's their only top 10, it's still a top 10. And the PGA Championship. And I think you could even include Memorial as well. And I think you would argue that point.
Yeah, I would argue that you can look back at the FedEx St. Jude and Memorial just because of the strength of those fields.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you might be thinking, that it says the last 10 winners and this is only six, but there's four more right
There
here.
we go.
So now the
The
other
other thing to point out here, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say next to that you see the year they won, the person who won, and then in brackets there is actually their official world golf ranking just prior to when they won. So we see with Graham McDowell, he was actually 36th, which is the worst ranking of any of the top 10 winners. So that's another thing to consider when you're looking at US Open winners. It's probably going to be from at least the top 50 players in the world, but more likely the top 25.
Yeah, now I think if we did go back to 2009 Lucas Glover, I think that's when you start to get, I forget what he was ranked, but it was maybe something in the 60s or 70s going in. I'd have to look at that, but really you can expect it's going to come from someone in the higher end of the rankings. And so for me, one of the things that's most important about this is that if you get someone like, you look at 2006 Dustin Johnson, or a 2015 Jordan Spieth, or a
Right.
2011 Rory, like they were really hot with multiple top tens, and Graham McDowell, coming off a win and a fourth. I don't think, like, I personally am not going to scratch guys off if they have middling results in their last few
Yeah.
starts, but they still have shown that they're playing good golf sometime in the last few months.
Yeah.
And then the people that we do have, like we do have some golfers right now who are really hot, and to me, I'm not limiting myself to them, but it gives them that little extra boost.
Well, and I think the other thing to remember here is we're looking at the formula for the winner. And when you're filling out a DFS lineup with six golfers, you can't fill all six with that formula. You just don't have enough salary. So you might want to look at one or two of the higher price guys that fill all these criteria: experience, form coming in, all those things we've talked about. And then you pick a couple winners, and then yeah, not everyone's going to kind of tick off all the boxes, but
Yeah, so
good things to look at.
do you want to tell me who are a couple early guys you're looking at?
Yeah, early picks, early clicks when I've been going through these are DraftKings prices. So, I mean, I think John Rahm's going to win. He's 11,000. He's second highest, just below DJ. I think he's playing the best golf of his life. He's coming off a win at the Memorial, which is a very tough tournament. His recent form is 4-1 with that thrilling playoff win against DJ, then T6. He's long, but he's also accurate. He's not just a bomber that, I mean, throws it all over the course. He's accurate as well. And he's top 25 in strokes gained around the green and putting. So he's very balanced. I mean, he's just good at everything. The other thing I like about Rahm, he doesn't have the major championship yet. It's coming, but he's got top 13 or better in 6 of his last 9. So even if he doesn't win, I think a top 5 is definitely likely from him.
Yeah, I like it. I think he's gonna. The price may deter some people, but I have a feeling that a lot of people are gonna like him as their pick to win.
And that's fine. If he's 30% owned, I'm okay with it. I think he's that strong right now. I think possibly him and Xander might be the highest owned. We'll see as we get kind of further along the week, but there's a reason for that as
Yeah, I was
well.
gonna say, with all the top guys, you're gonna expect that other people like them as well. So
Yeah.
that's where the real differentiation throughout the rest of your lineup comes into play.
So when you fit a guy like Rahm into your lap, you have to find some guys that are priced 7K and lower. And the first one that caught my eye was Thomas Peters. If you've been watching golf for a while, you know his name. He has experience in majors. He's got a top 5 in the Masters at 2017, a T6 at the 2018 PGA. So he's got a couple top 10s in WGCs as well. So he's kind of a big game type hunter. He hasn't played a lot since the COVID break, and it's because he's a new dad. So
Oh,
he's
cool.
got that. Yeah, he's got that flowing as well. I mean, Roy's got that, but there's a famous quote. I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, beware the new dad golfer kind of. They have that extra motivation. He's only played in 2 events since the COVID break over in Europe. He's a Belgium, so he was not in Belgium, but he's a Belgium golfer. T3 and T15 in his last 2 starts. So he's checking those boxes for in form. And he's also known as a Belgian bomber, but he's not just that. He's gained at least zero point 0.3 strokes around the green in the last 2 years. So even if he's not hitting the fairway or making all his greens and regulations, he's good to get up and down. He's just a very talented guy. I think 6,800. Yeah, he's a little bit volatile, but I think he's a guy that can crack a top 10, maybe a top 5 if you're lucky. With that price point, can be all the difference.
Well, yeah, and you know how I love volatile guys when I'm making GPP lineups because,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd rather have a good chance of getting the highest finish as opposed to just squeaking in with safe things to barely cash.
yeah.
And that's why, when you build a whole bunch of lineups, some of them might end up being just barely cashing, but you want the chance that it can be the big win.
And people might think like I have the all hothead team here or like the all team club throw with Rom and Peters, but I think with both these guys, you're seeing a maturation in their game. Rom has shown that he's cool under pressure and he won't let a missed putt kind of determine his whole round. And I think Peters has quietly shown that. I know he's been working on that part of his game, the fact that he's a new dad. I think we're going to see a maturation of Thomas Peters as well.
Well, there you go. The
There you go.
psychology too.
Yeah. Craig, who's catching your eye early on here?
So, I mean, just early on, these are my sort of first look picks.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas, I think that with all the success that DJ and Rom have had in the last little bit, that people are forgetting, you know, a little bit forgetting how good JT is, but also how good he's been since the restart. Just because it's been a few weeks in a row where we haven't seen peak JT.
Right.
And so him and DJ have played in 9 tournaments together since the restart, and he's 4-4-1 in terms of who finishes higher. Him and Rom have played in 10 together, and
Right.
and they're 5-5 in terms of who's finished higher. And it's actually only of the top golfers, it's only Daniel Berger who has been lights out
Which
since
is
the
interesting.
restart,
Yeah.
who's actually had more tournaments where he's finished higher than JT, as opposed to vice versa. So I like, and this is where, a little bit, I'm not just looking at the last tournament or two for recent form. Like Justin Thomas is playing good golf. His putting has been a little bit, leaving a little bit something to be desired. But that's one of these things that these guys turn around in a week. And then
Yeah.
you want to get them the week they turn it around, because then the week after that, they're going to be very popular again.
Yeah.
So I don't mind his recent form, I guess, is what I'm saying. And then in terms of, his when you start to look back through the season, I just think that statistically, he shows that he's a perfect fit based on what I have found to be the
Right.
type of player you want at this course.
Mhm.
He's number one if you combine strokes gain approach and around the green. So
Yeah.
you ignore getting off the tee and putting, which I guess those are important parts of golf. But those are two of the ones that are going to be most heavily weighted in our model.
Yeah.
But he's number one when you combine those two. And even I also combine those two and putting, and I think it was him and Webb were right there next to each other.
Right.
And
Okay.
so he's a very good fit for the course. I think
Yeah.
I
I
also think that ownership will skew a little bit away from him because he hasn't
Sure.
been as flashy as DJ and Rom of recent. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit. I mean, it's not with JT. It's never a huge contrarian play, but
No.
maybe just
No.
a
No.
little
No.
bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like JT. The only thing I feel like from the PGA Championship on, his he's had his driver's had a little bit of issue finding the fairway,
Yeah.
and I know he'll miss the fairway, he'll spend some time on the range, and he'll fix it, and then he'll miss again, he'll go back and work with his dad, and then he'll find it again, and then but it seems to be the kind of this roller coaster, and if he's hitting fairways, he quickly becomes the favorite, I think. But if he is missing, that's where I get a little bit worried paying up for JT.
Yeah, I think JT also has a little bit of the problem that Rory has, where because our expectations for them are so high that
Yeah.
when it's when they're not dominating, when they're not out there
Yeah.
winning tournaments, we're like, man, like what's going wrong? We see so much more from you 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, but it's golf and it's hard, and
You only got 8? Like,
yeah. And so I've also just hedged a little bit because I think we're going to do a picks show later, but with our top plays. But I had a hard time not putting both Xander and Webb in just because of how strongly they came up in a few
right.
different metrics for how well suited they are. But you can look forward to that in our next shows. So on the low end, a guy that many may have heard of, but some may not have, is Will
Right.
Zalatoris. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm going to have to make sure I get that right. So I'll be listening for it on the broadcast this week.
Mhm.
But basically, this kid, he's, I want to say 23, maybe 23 or 24
Right.
years old. He's number one ranked player on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's just absolutely killing it down there. He's played 16 events, and 10 of them have been top tens. So he's super consistent week in, week out. And fortunately, he shot a 64 on Sunday and came up
Right.
with
Yeah.
second, because I was a little worried that he might win it, which he would just be that much more popular as a pick coming
It
in
boost.
this
Yeah.
week if
It boosted.
if there was all
Yeah.
those headlines. Um, but in terms of how he plays, like I had to go a long ways back, and I didn't see anyone who was even close in terms of greens in regulation at 81%. And this isn't
That's
this,
a yeah.
and it's not a small sample size. Like this is a large sample size that he's been hitting a very high number. And then the one thing I did want to see is, okay, so is he sort of a front runner where like when everything's going
Mhm.
well, he's doing well,
Right.
but he was, if you took his scrambling percentage, which he was about 25th ranked on the Corn Ferry, but I put that his percentage in to where it would be on the PGA Tour rankings, and it was
Right.
25th. It was about actually the
Okay.
same place as Justin Thomas.
Yeah.
And I know that PGA courses are set up more difficult and everything involved with that, but it's
Yeah.
nice to know that it's not significantly out of line with
For
where
sure.
where
Oh
you would
yeah.
want it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be. And then I was talking, as I had mentioned with Peters, his volatility is something I like, and Zalatoris, like he can go low. He's number 3 in eagles on the Corn Ferry, number 4 in birdies,
Yeah.
and his scoring average is, I want to say, almost a half stroke better than anyone else down there. So he
Yeah.
has a crazy ability to go low, which there's going to be a lot of bogey avoidance and scrambling here, but
Right.
you do want people who can make birdies, and
Counteract those bogeys.
yeah, exactly. So there's a few other guys down in the 6K range that I like, but we're gonna do a sleeper show, so
Yeah.
you'll have to wait for that to get the
That'll
rest of
come
them.
soon.
Yeah.
So, Craig, you did a little bit of research on value, comparing DraftKings and FanDuel pricing. I see you have built a pretty graph here. What's going on?
So basically, what I was trying to do, I think that oftentimes there's people you want to play because you think that they're a
Hmm.
good fit for the course and everything, or you just like a player, and so you want to play them, but sometimes there's actually a difference in terms of whether they're better value at DraftKings or FanDuel. And I
Right.
mean, like you, I have accounts at both, so I could put in lineups at either
Yeah.
one. So I just made this real quick. Basically, it's just simply if we look at their DraftKings salary versus their FanDuel salary, and
Hmm.
then this is a line fit that is approximately how those two relate to each other. But you can see that there's some that start to get a little bit out of line, and so really it's just targeting, trying to
So,
play those guys at the right
who
ones.
who are the bubbles there? Let's take a look at the best DraftKings and FanDuel values
So
based on their
So
corresponding
these
salaries,
are
I guess.
ranked in terms of number one is the highest value at one,
Hmm.
so like Tiger Woods here, he is the highest, he is more valuable at DraftKings as opposed to FanDuel. And
Yeah, I think
Finau
I was
is
telling
vice
you
versa.
that on FanDuel, Tiger Woods was the 12th most expensive golfer, and on DraftKings, he was 15th.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some variance there.
Yeah, and Finau, for example, he is about 9,100 on DraftKings, and
Hmm.
just I want to say he's either 10-1 or 10-2 on FanDuel. So I mean that's almost an average
which is
price
average,
on
right?
FanDuel. So that'd be like as if he was 800 and
85.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
so if you want to play Finau, which like I like
I do.
him. Yeah, I like him. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be playing him on DraftKings because I think I'll go over to FanDuel to play him.
Yeah.
But you know, anyone pop out to you on these lists? I mean, obviously Tiger.
Yeah, well, just I mean, I think people know my strategy. I kind of throw a couple darts and hope them to stick. I'm going to probably do one FanDuel lineup in the big tournament. Finau and Webb Simpson. I think I wasn't on Webb Simpson at the start of the day, but you've kind of convinced me that Webb has the game, has the form, and things are kind of going right for him. So I might start a lineup with Finau and Simpson on FanDuel. In terms of DraftKings, not a lot is jumping out. I think you might have to be a little bit more creative on DraftKings. We've talked about on our podcast why Tiger Woods isn't a fit for US Open. And then the guys below him, just not much exciting. Like what how about yourself?
So sometimes I do find I like Ryan Palmer. I don't know because it's less of a ball striking course and the short game comes into play. I'd have to look a little bit
Mhm.
more, and this is what we'll be doing in our next videos as to the actual value on him. Um, Sungjae may be someone that I go to again, and Paul Casey is another
Yeah.
guy that I'm gonna have to look a little bit at how he. I know he hasn't been playing too well of recent, but whether or not I find any value there. And then the other thing that comes into play for me a bit is whether there's they may be all right value, but then there's guys around there that I like a lot more that I'll end up plugging
Yeah.
them into my lineups.
Yeah.
And then I guess just because Kevin would want us to mention that if you do
Yeah.
want to play Max Homa, because I know a lot of people are big Max Homa fans, yeah, head over to FanDuel because he's better value there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think all of these top three. I don't know. Webb is someone I'd like to get into lineups. I don't know about
Mhm.
Scott, but Finau, as we talked about, yeah,
Yeah. Interesting to look at for sure.
yeah. So just
So
summarizing real quick.
yeah, I mean, not necessarily our picks to win. We're going to do a couple more shows throughout the week, but our early kind of clicks and picks that have picked our eye. For myself, it's John Rahm at 11,000 on DraftKings, and Thomas Peters at 6,800.
And for me, I've got JT at 10,700 and Will Zalatoris from the Corn Ferry Tour at 6,700.
I like it. Well, thank you everyone for watching our video. We have a ton of content coming up this week for the US Open. We're going to do, as Craig kind of teased, we're going to do a sleepers video where we break down our favorite kind of low end plays for both DraftKings and FanDuel. We're also going to be doing our top picks video for the US Open. So that's going to be dropping in the next couple of days. Please like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell to make sure you catch all our upcoming shows.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, take care. See ya.